Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Hope you had a great weekend and hope you had a better Sunday than me. The Super Bowl was an absolute disaster from a Chiefs side of things, but full marks to the Philadelphia Eagles for putting together an incredible performance and leaving absolutely no doubt who the best team in the National Football League was this year. We'll get into the Super Bowl. Brandon Rewucki is going to come on. He'll be wearing his green, I'm sure. We'll talk some Super Bowl. We'll also look ahead to the Four Nations and the latest with the Winnipeg Jets. Looking forward to having Mike McIntyre join us to discuss the Jets on top of the National Hockey League at the Four Nations break. Talk a little bit about the tournament and, of course, look ahead to the final 26 games. What is at stake for the Winnipeg Jets? What's on the line and what they can do to help their lot, and of course, how that lot might change depending on what happens in and around the trade deadline. So Mike McIntyre coming up, and then later on, we'll get ready for CFL Free Agency and probably talk a little bit more about what the hell happened yesterday to Kansas City with Coach LaPolice, Paul Lapo, coming on later on today. But should be a fun show for many of you. And again, congratulations to the Eagles fans out there. I've been through this once before, 4 years ago, after the Chiefs got massacred by Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. I showed up for the show the next day, took it on the chin for the full 3 hours. And I believe I said at the end of the broadcast, you know what? I've taken my medicine. I'll be back. We'll be back. But tomorrow we move on. It's a new day and we'll focus in on the Jets. And that day never came because we got fired the next day by TSN. So the one good thing is I can guarantee you we'll be back tomorrow on the air because we will not be shutting down the operation of WST. Far from it. Looking forward to our 1,000th show in early March, our 4th anniversary. A huge trade deadline extravaganzas we've done with an extended show the last couple years. So we'll talk about the game. I will move on. Chiefs will be back. But certainly left a lot of the, if you didn't have any skin in the game and we're just looking forward to a good game, the Eagles took that one and they put the team in a locker basically. And, this was over, some would say in the first half, but certainly early in the second half. We'll see what Remo's got to say about that. Just before we bring him in, welcome to everybody in chat. Hit that thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Do want to thank the sponsors that make this WST happen. Actually, a big month for us. I'll tell you about this a little later on. But we've teamed up with our friends at the Health Sciences Center Foundation and to help them with some fundraising. And hopefully you'll be able to be a part. And they've got an amazing Fund a Need auction right now, which will include a trip to Aikens Lake hosted by yours truly. So we'll tell you about that a little later on. Also want to welcome St. Vital Dental Center to the Winnipeg Sports Talk team. Great to have Dr. Terry and the gang at St. Vital Dental Center on board with us. Of course, our friends at Rolly's Transfer, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Coolbet, Princess Auto, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, and we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get Remis in here. Reem, it wasn't supposed to be this way. But there's games, there's great games, there's close games. Usually the Chiefs play in those. This was not any of those yesterday. Pretty incredible performance by the Eagles and not a great game from a viewing perspective if you're hoping for any drama yesterday.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a close game. You looked at the spread, I thought it was going to be high scoring. It certainly was when you look at the total hitting the over, Hustler. But I think I was just sat there stunned. I was waiting for the Mahomes comeback that never came. The pressure on him was incredible. And yeah, Gronk mentioned it at halftime. Reminded you of the Super Bowl Tampa one against KC. And there was so much dynasty talk about the Chiefs. I think we kind of neglected any perspective on the Eagles, who've made it. They won the Super Bowl against the Patriots. They lost against the Chiefs, and now they're in again. Seems to be well positioned going forward. So congratulations to the Eagles on a dominating performance. It was one of the more, I don't know, was it forgettable? Like, it was unbelievable watching the Chiefs just get dominated like that, because you hadn't seen that all year. Every game they play is close, and they couldn't do anything. They looked inept. I mean, it was crazy.
Despite the 15-1 record before they rested everybody in that final game, the Chiefs, even in the second half of the regular season, were dealing with a lot of issues on their offensive line. They basically didn't have a left tackle that could get the job done. They signed DJ Humphries, hoped that he'd be ready, but ended up moving their all-pro guard, Joe Thuney, to left tackle, thinking that gave them the best chance of protecting Patrick Mahomes. But listen, Thuney's a stud, and already has 4 Super Bowl rings. He didn't get 5 yesterday because he and the unit that he was leading got absolutely ran over by the Philly defensive line. And I mean, I've got a lot of time for the game that Jalen Hurts played. I thought he was phenomenal yesterday and absolutely deserved the MVP. But Remis, if you really want to know why this game turned out as lopsided as it was, even though the final score was kind of lipstick on a pig, this game was not that close at all. It was what Jalen Carter and those beasts on the Philly defensive line did to KC's O-line. Mahomes did not have time. He was under pressure almost every time he dropped back. They were forcing him to rush, make decisions that he doesn't normally make. And when he did, they got burned with the 2 picks, the pick 6 to Cooper DeJean. And the thing is, they did it without ever having to blitz. I was talking with the guys in the lock shop. I mean, it's very, very similar to how the New York Giants beat the Patriots those 2 times. It was the fact that their defensive line was getting to Tom Brady consistently without blitzing anybody. And it allowed everyone else in the defense to do their job, making it that much harder to complete passes. And that's what happened yesterday. And they never really figured it out at all, really, until garbage time, when the Eagles kind of called the dogs off a little bit and Xavier Worthy ate. But they say games are won on the line of scrimmage. I'm sure that's what Lapo's going to tell us when he joins us later on today.
Yeah, looking forward to Lapo coming on. CFL Free Agency does kick off tomorrow. I know he did a breakdown. There's reports that the Bombers have signed QB Shea Paterson, who we saw with the Riders. He did a breakdown of that on his YouTube channel. And I'm curious Lapo's perspective, just as a former coach going through CFL Free Agency and all that. And he probably watched, I'm assuming he watched the game. He's got opinions on football. And it was amazing to see the pressure that was on Mahomes without blitzing. The front 4, they talk about it on the broadcast, just incredible pressure, couldn't do anything. And it was just, someone who's watched a lot of the Chiefs because they're always on prime time. It was crazy to watch them have that lack of success. But when you look back, maybe, we underestimated the Eagles. They have all these incredible players on defense, and the Chiefs, like Mahomes, maybe we overrated him a little. They kept winning all these games, but his numbers weren't really that great. He just seemed to always figure out how to get it done in crunch time. So I'm not sure what the future holds for either of these teams, but it was we haven't really had too many dud games in the Super Bowl lately. We've been blessed with a lot of very close games. I mean, I kept watching. It was just crazy. It was crazy to watch, I think, them just get absolutely dominated.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes and the Chiefs, I'm sure will be back, but it's not easy to get there each and every year. Give yourself an opportunity, and they have been to 5 Super Bowls in 7 years. They won 3. I mean, it's still an incredible and historic run. But make no mistake about it, and you all know me, I'm the biggest Mahomes guy there is. This is going to be a tough spot, a real low point on the resume, despite winning the AFC again and getting to the big game. But there was so much more than just a poor game from Pat. As we mentioned, I mean, what was happening on the line of scrimmage put him in a really, really tough spot. I mean, they had terrible field position. They weren't able to do anything, but they had 1 first down in the first half. So nothing went Casey's way. Although, Remis, the one thing that I think is the most shocking, that the Eagles pounded them the way they did, and yet Saquon Barkley did absolutely nothing yesterday. I mean, he had 60 yards on 25 carries. And if you told me that they would be able to limit Saquon the way that they did, I think most people would have said, okay, well, the Chiefs are probably winning this game. But that was the only thing they were really able to do. And I give credit to Jalen Hurts and Kellen Moore, the way that they called that game. The Chiefs sold out to stop Saquon Barkley, did a great job of that, but they weren't able to hold down A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts, who actually led the Eagles in rushing with 71 yards. So, I mean, it was an incredible team performance by Philly, top to bottom. But I think Jalen Hurts is going to get some of the flowers that he very much deserves after, when we looked at the other quarterbacks in the playoffs, you kind of looked at Hurts and thought that was an area that Philly, certainly didn't have an advantage on. And, in some games thought that the difference was pretty significant. He was full marks for his MVP performance yesterday.
Oh, yeah, he was awesome. And yeah, they sold out to stop Saquon and said, okay, Jalen Hurts, we're going to, you beat us. And he beat them with the legs, with the arms. Devontae Smith had a really nice game. He threw the ball deep, did everything that you could want him to do. Did have the one turnover, but he was excellent. And you want to give the MVP to the defense, but I mean, you can only give it to one guy. You can't say, oh, hey, Eagles front four, you're the MVP. It's not like the 3 stars of the game house when they give it to the fans once in a while. Have to give it to one guy, usually the quarterback. And if you did bet Jalen Hurts for MVP, probably did okay. I'll give a shout out to my wife who won our Super Bowl pool that I run at our group of friends. She won. She said, I'm like, who do you want to pick? She's like, I don't know, Eagles? And I guided her a little, but she, picked it all. So we were hanging. She needed Hurts to win MVP to win our pool. So she stayed up late to the end. It was good. It was a good night.
Yeah. Actually I didn't do too badly with the props. That D-Hop touchdown at the end at plus 550 was a nice ad. The over came through. I was big on the Barkley under 111.5. That one came through. But who could have imagined that the over 2.5 players to throw a pass would come in just because Kenny Pickett was in garbage time and got a chance to throw the ball, Reem?
Yeah, that one was I always bet on that one in our pool. Longest touchdown hit at the end, too. Was it the Worthy?
The Worthy one,
The Worthy one? That was 50 yards or something. So garbage time certainly counts in this. Not the way that I thought it would coming in, but shocking. 40-22 makes it look closer than it was.
No, it was 40-6 late in the game. They got the 2 touchdowns, and listen, you knew they were going to fight till the end and try and make it a little less embarrassing. I guess they accomplished that. But when the winning head coach is getting the Gatorade shower before the 2-minute warning, you know that this one has been a tough one. I'm seeing lots of stuff in chat. By the way, I see Connor in chat on a much happier topic. The Winnipeg Jets just keep on rolling, 8 in a row heading into the break. Connor's got the latest Jets Weekly up on the channel right now. Gonna want to check that out. And we'll be talking more Jets coming up in a minute. But a great time last night. I should say Friday night, Remis, as we made it to 5-0 on the season with the Winnipeg Sports Talk group, a great crew with us in 316 on a Friday night, and hell of a way to start the weekend. Obviously, for myself, it didn't end as well, but now that the NFL season is over, I can put all my focus on the number 1 team in the National Hockey League and get ready for 26 more games, and of course the 4 Nations, which I cannot wait to see get going on Wednesday.
Yeah, we had such a great time on Friday. Just an incredible turnout for Winnipeg Sports Talk Night. We do have one more of those, WinnipegJets.com/WST against the Devil. So that should be equally good game Friday, March 28th. But shout out to everyone who came out with us. Great to see so many people, including Marble winner from Friday, Jeff Kabilis, was in our group. And yeah, we were treated to a great game. All of the goals the Jets scored, highlight reel affairs. Alex Iafallo, go into the net. He's had some nice plays the last couple of games. Cole Perfetti's back pass, and Gabe Vilardi scoring 2, or how about Connor Hellebuyck standing on his head when the Islanders had the power play at the end. So the 8-game win streak for the Jets going into the break on a high note in first place, leading the NHL in so many categories. And we'll get to see a couple Jets at the Four Nations this week, but majority of them, earning a well-deserved couple weeks off. I did see a picture on TikTok of Dylan Sandberg taking a nap in some chairs in the sun. So, look, hopefully they come back, recharge. You don't want to lose this momentum that they've built up, but they're playing very, very well. It's incredible to watch. And there are some people, I posted on our Instagram and TikTok, but Connor from Jets Weekly just rattling off all he says. Jets are first in points, most goals for, least goals against, historic power play, Vezina Trophy. And you're going to have people in there saying, yeah, but it doesn't count if they don't get anything done in the playoffs. Well, we don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs, so what? We're not going to enjoy watching this team kick ass and go to every game where they win? Like, what's our record on WST night this year? 5-0 after going 1-3 last year.
Needing a win against Calgary in the final game to do this again this year. If we'd gone 0-4, we had to, there's no way we could do it. It felt like we were a curse last year. It's been the exact opposite this season. Although, with the way the teams played at home, the chance, if you've been to 5 games this year, there's probably a pretty good chance that you'd be 5-0, just based on how many times the team has won. Hey, I'm very interested, not as much in talking about the massacre of the Chiefs yesterday by the Eagles, but I do want, and Remis, maybe we can get a poll for this here. Why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray? Where were you at on the halftime show? Did you enjoy the halftime show or did you hate the halftime show? It seems like there are some very polarizing opinions of that. So let us know in the chat. Comments on the halftime show, and we'll see if we can get a poll in there as well, and everyone can make their vote. You know what? Listen, we're going to talk a little bit more Jets coming up, but I did want to take this chance to let you know about a big month for us teaming up with our friends at the Health Sciences Center Foundation. And, longtime listeners back to our previous year know that I benefited greatly from the amazing care at the HSC during the months that I was in there after my incident in September of 2020. So it's, just being able to have a bit of a platform to help them out at an important time of the year is a great opportunity. So and there's actually a couple things that I wanted to let you know about. First of all, they've got their Fund a Need program going on right now. And if you head over there, you can make an impact. If you all donations, $25 or more, you'll get a tax receipt, of course, for it. And, the Fund a Need is going towards a special bedside monitor that assesses the effectiveness of CPR as it's being administered to patients experiencing a cardiac arrest, 2 point-of-care ultrasound units for faster bedside diagnoses, and 2 rapid infusers for safer blood transfusions. If you're lucky, you won't need to take advantage of the incredible care at the HSC, but inevitably, we all will at some point. So right now, we're able to do this. And part of it, we'd love for you to make a donation. But they've also got an incredible auction right now. And maybe you want to fire it up over on the chat. We'll put the link in the description to this. But one of the prizes is going to be an incredible fishing adventure at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, which regular listeners know how incredible of a place that is. And it's going to be hosted by me. So the package includes a trip for 2 to Aikens, where you'll have an opportunity to fish for walleye, northern pike, lake trout. It is truly a paradise spot. And the staff and the service from everyone there is top drawer. You'll be eating in the morning. We'll have incredible shore lunches in the day, beautiful dinner in the evening, few pops at Big Molly's a little later on, and do it all again. So if you go to the auction, There's a whole bunch of other amazing things that you can also check out. You'll see Fishing Adventure with Hustler from Winnipeg Sports Talk. The value of this in retail is about $7,600. It is an amazing trip, and hopefully one of you will be able to join me at Aikens later on this summer. So the auction runs from today through 10 p.m. on the 22nd. So get on that link, check out. There's some great Jets experiences. There's some amazing, dining opportunities, some other trips, a New Zealand one, and all the money goes to help the HSC Foundation. So get on over there. If you're able to make a donation as well, greatly appreciate it. We're really going to make a push this month as it's a big month for our friends at the HSC Foundation. And again, if you're listening on the podcast and you want to get over and find out more, the address is www.givergy, so giver, gy.ca/savor 2025 and hit the Fund a Need auction page. So thanks for the support, and hopefully you guys can jump on that Castaway Fishing at Aikens Lake, hosted by yours truly. Would love to see you out there, and I guarantee it will be an incredible time. Again, link is in the description of today's episode. Remo, one other thing we should mention to everybody is the tickets are now available for the Whiskey Fest event on February 27th. Had to make sure that everything was going to be able to go ahead considering what was happening with Liquor Marts, but we are good to go. And this is going to be an amazing one. Back at the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame on February 27th, we'll be watching the Jets play the Nashville Predators, and kind of perfect they're playing the team from Tennessee, because we're going to be doing a bourbon tasting with the Maker's Mark Master. And 5 p.m. or so, we'll get going. We'll taste a bunch of the best and many exclusive Maker's Mark products, learn more about bourbon, and have a great time. That was such a great event last year. We've had a lot of people asking about it again, Reem, and now tickets are available.
Yeah, if you want to get tickets, the link is in the description. I'll be throwing it on our social medias later on. There's also a link on the top of our website, winnipegsportstalk.com. Just click whiskey tasting on the top. It'll take you there. There's a link, 28 spots left. You get the best part for me, like I'm not a huge whiskey guy, but I loved the charcuterie board last year, which will be in there.
Oh my God, was that awesome?
That was, and then there's a very interesting pour list here of what varieties. And also there's, I think, special gift they're working out for everyone who's in attendance. We also get to watch the Winnipeg take on Nashville. So that should be a great night. The Sports Hall of Fame, an incredible venue. So much great memorabilia there spanning, I guess like 100 years. I don't know. It goes back a long time.
Yeah.
So they've done a great job, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone again this year.
Yeah, and Mike Adu is going to be coming to put it on. He's been on Dragon's Den, I know, before, and some really cool Maker's Mark products, including a couple private select barrels that they'll be bringing out for it. So, yeah, it's February 27th. Tickets, link is in the description. Jump on those. It sold out quickly last year. Today is the first day we're putting tickets on sale, and we're already have had a bunch of people jump on them. So hopefully we will see you there on the 28th or the 27th, I should say. All right, let's get back to this game. Brandon Rewucki is going to join us in a few minutes. But Remo, we can't kind of get into today without just kind of wrapping up that final game. 4-3 game over the Islanders. And, you kind of mentioned it. It was, a whole bunch of highlight reel goals. Amazing play by Alex Iafallo to get the team even after giving up an early one. A couple of weird goals in the first period, honestly, against Hellebuck, but he stood tall the rest of the way. And Gabe Vilardi was due now a career-high 24 goals on the season after 2 on Friday night.
Yeah, it's amazing to look at the Winnipeg Jets in the first half of the season. If you ever thought this was their year, it seems like everything is breaking right. How many players on this team are having career years? Nikolai Ehlers, point per game. Gabriel Vilardi, he's healthy, putting up numbers. Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, they're top 5 in the league in goals scored. Connor Hellebuyck, Vezina Trophy, probably going to win. Could be a nominee for the Hart. So this season is just everything is breaking correctly, and multiple 7+ game win streaks have a chance to set the franchise record for win streak when they come back against St. Louis. So this is incredible to watch. The team's having fun. We talked with Eric Comrie on Thursday's show saying the guys like each other, having fun coming to the rink every day. It really shows on the ice. I mean, at home, us 22-5-3 is the record at home. This is ridiculous what we're seeing. The goal differential far and away, best in the West. So, they're in position here, not just for the Central Division, not just to win the Western Conference, but to win the President's Trophy. How cool would that be? To have a possible banner for either of those, and just thinking about in the playoffs, who's your opponent going to be if you win win the West. Right now it would be Vancouver, and you'd much rather play Vancouver, who's got 3 points up on Calgary, than Colorado, or whoever falls down. But Minnesota would be interesting. We'll see what their injury situation is, or you don't want to play Dallas, who won the Central last year. So
Dallas, I think, is likely to be the second team. And right now they're third overall. They're tied for third overall with Edmonton, Vegas, and Dallas. And yet the Jets are up on them by 9 points. There is a big opportunity for them to jump on this, have home ice throughout the Western Conference playoffs. Like, the President's Trophy would be nice, but there is a real carrot to being number one. And if things stayed the way they were right now, you mentioned the Jets would get Vancouver in the 1-8 series. Part of that too, Remis, would mean the Avalanche, who are in the other wild card, would move over and would take on the Edmonton Oilers or Vegas Golden Knights in the first round. So, listen, there's nothing is guaranteed. You want to see this team give themselves the best chance to make a long run. Taking care of business in the first round is what you have to do before you can worry about anything else. In all likelihood, a second round series against a team like Dallas would be tough. But again, they've earned this spot in the standings right now. They're in an incredible position. And it was just impressive the way they took it right to that final 60 minutes before going their separate ways and getting some well-earned rest.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know. It's funny that the player poll last week, Huss, was the number one item was the no trade clause, and not what do you think of this BS playoff format that gives us the same matchups every year? I thought Edmonton, LA was just penciled in that we were going to see that round one. So interesting to hear that, it would be Colorado versus Edmonton if the playoffs ended today. So the Jets, they're in a really good spot. Everyone's playing well. The trade deadline is less than a month away now. There can be moves here during the break. I think I made a mistake last week. I don't know if they're going to, are there going to be trades here? Elliot Friedman did mention that GMs are going to be having conversations. Could we see some contract extensions during this break? So I am curious if there are NHL transactions that take away from this Four Nations face-off tournament that gets underway on Wednesday. You did have the teams practicing, but if you're the Jets, you got to be feeling pretty good about what we've seen in the first half or the pre-break portion of the schedule. But hey, let's keep it up towards the second half. The work's not done, and towards the playoffs as well. But first, you got to finish the season before you think about the playoffs. Just for everyone who says none of this matters, they haven't done anything in the playoffs. Let's enjoy what we're watching.
Yeah, and speaking of enjoying what we're watching, we'll be diving into the Four Nations over these next few days. First game is Wednesday night, Canada, Sweden, and then Saturday night, Canada, USA. A week today, Monday, is the doubleheader, Canada, Finland, USA, Sweden, and then the final, hopefully Canada versus USA. We'll see how things go in Boston, Thursday, February 20th. We'll touch on that coming up with Rewucki. And we'll also get to it with Mike McIntyre a little bit later on. By the way, no good news for Mark Scheifele, although maybe it's good news to some. Listen, we know how Scheif has responded on the ice after being snubbed for Team Canada. He was placed on call. They thought that there was a potential that maybe Sidney Crosby wouldn't be able to go, or somebody else. It doesn't look like that's been the case. Crosby practiced today in Montreal. He's good to go. So Mark Scheifele, you should be on the team, but make the most of this couple weeks. Come back hungrier, and this FU mode that you've been in since you've been left on the team, let's keep that rolling through 26 regular season games and, dare I say, 4 rounds of playoffs. Let's just check out this poll here. We can get into our fans first fan feedback right now on the halftime show last night. It seemed like 62% did not like it. Sorry, 60% didn't like it. 18% said just okay. 11% it was good. 8% loved it. Yeah, that I wasn't, needless to say, Remis, I wasn't spending too much time on online. I didn't really want to look at my Twitter feed for obvious reasons, so I didn't really catch much of what everyone was saying online about it, although people generally hate everything online, even things that actually are well received. But it was it was okay. I didn't really know a lot of the songs. Obviously we knew Not Like Us, but it was interesting. I mean, the visuals I think were really cool on it, but as always, polarizing music choices. Some people love it, some people hate it.
Yeah, I know Kendrick Lamar's first album. I'm not really familiar with the other stuff. Like, I know nothing about his beef with Drake. I really don't care at all. I had never clicked on one link. I never listened to any of those songs. Do not care. So I watched the performance. I had an open mind. Wasn't my taste. Not for me. Loved the 50 Cent Dr. Dre one from a couple years ago. I thought Usher.
That was all bangers.
Usher
that
was
everybody
good.
Knew.
Yeah, like the songs that I did know, I don't think he performed from the first album, so it wasn't for me. And I don't know. I don't think that I'm an old guy, Huss, but yeah, I wasn't. I don't know. A lot of my friends said might be Kendrick fans, weren't that into it. I just didn't think it was going to be a great halftime show. Like, I don't think it has the wide appeal that they've gone for in the past. So. I'll give it a thumbs down if I had to go up or down.
Yeah. Well, anyways, you can pop in. We'll get to, of course, fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market. No added fees when you're buying seats at Fans First. What you see is what you pay, which is in stark contrast to what you get on most of those other ticketing sites. And I have experienced that firsthand this year. And hey, for sellers, season ticket holders, you got an extra pair. You obviously can't make the game. Customer service, top drawer, very, very easy to list and sell the tickets on Fans First. And you get paid the next business day after the game, quick and easy into your account. Check out the site today, Fans First, brought to you by fan feedback, brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right, we're going to bring in Brandon Rewucki and talk to Brandon. Let him do a little victory lap after his Eagles crushed my Chiefs yesterday in the Super Bowl. And then we'll get into coming together and moving forward, talking Jets and Four Nations. Before we do that, though, a big shout out to our friends at Rolly's Transfer. If you've got a move planned in 2025, contact our friends at Rolly's. Family owned and operated for over 60 years, is the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Head on over to their website, and if you click on request an estimate in the top right at rollies.com, make sure to put WST in the promo code for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners, and then let them know when and where you're moving, what needs to be moved, and the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around with a great quote and get you set up for the white glove treatment from Rollies on your next move. Moving in 2025, make it Rollies. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollies.com. And hey, a big welcome to a new sponsor with the crew, our pal, Dr. Terry, and the great staff over at the St. Vital Dental Center. I can tell you, folks, that I've been in a little bit over the last little while, and Probably shouldn't have left it as long as I had, but I actually love going there. The advance in dental technology is incredible. I don't know whether it's just the freezing or the integrates. It just seems to be less intimidating than it was earlier in my life. But if you are needing dental services, and we're talking about for kids all the way up to seniors, St. Vital Dental Center is an incredible spot. They're at 167 St. Anne's. My pal Dr. Terry and his amazing staff are there for you. Free parking right behind the office. Beautiful facility. And again, get you in for everything from cleanings to everything else that you need. And they do it for families and accepting new customers. So if you've been negligent with getting your teeth taken care of, don't wait. Get on over to St. Vital Dental Center, Dr. Terry and the gang, and tell him your boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Hey, just before we bring in Brandon, shout out to Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. Still plowing through this Winnipeg winter. It won't be long before we're talking about batteries for fishing boats and all the fun stuff in the summer. Right now, though, let's just get through winter. Best prices in town on car and truck batteries to handle what Mother Nature's throwing us throughout the deep part of this Manitoba winter. Manitoba Battery's got you covered. Lowest prices in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores. And you'll be shopping local, getting the best price in town and the best service, too, because they will deliver to you anywhere inside the perimeter of Winnipeg for free with any purchase over $60. For all your battery needs, Manitoba Battery, Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive, or shop online at manitobabattery.com. All right, Mike McIntyre, Paul LaPolice coming up. Right now, though, let's welcome in Brandon Rewucki in a good mood after the Eagles thumped the Chiefs yesterday. He's got the green shirt on today, and he's got the big bleep-eating grin. Super Bowl champs, that was wasn't much of a game, but it was a hell of a performance by your Eagles.
Yes. Good to talk to you. How's Monday treating you so far?
There's been better Mondays of the year.
That's fair. Yeah, I thought, I'll be gracious in victory. So I kept it to the Kelly Green golf shirt. So it's, classy, but also just a slight reminder of what took place there. But I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what happened over the last several hours, and it might take a little bit longer. It's just like I was surprisingly confident about the game going into it, but I think even the most diehard optimistic Eagles fan would not have been anticipating Kenny Pickett throwing passes and what took place there. But the game basically being over by the time the middle of the third quarter took place.
Sirianni got the Gatorade shower before the 2-minute warning.
Yep.
I mean, to be honest, they could have done that in the third quarter as well. I mean, it was just an absolute disaster for KC. But, the more I think about it, you can make some because, listen, Jalen Hurts was phenomenal. It's actually crazy, Brandon. If you had said to me before the game that the Chiefs would do such a good job at limiting damage from Saquon Barkley the way they did, I would think, okay, this is the script for them to go in and win this football game. But there's the other side of that coin. And if you load up the box and you focus in on one player like that, you need to win those one-on-one battles the other way. And I got to tell you, Jalen Hurts just stepped up and played an absolutely phenomenal game. Full marks to him for the MVP and the win.
Yeah, that's the funny. I see a lot of people getting on Spags about his defensive game plan and things like that. It's like, I don't know. They did about as good as they could, considering the fact that Kansas City refused to gain a first down for 75% of the game.
Yeah.
They did all they could to slow down Saquon. And I mean, wouldn't you go into any matchup with the Eagles with that game plan? Let's limit the damage with Barkley, and if Jalen Hurts beats us one-on-one, he beats us. And that's what happened. He played an amazing game. What I liked about this kind of outcome, apart from being an Eagles fan, is it's, I guess, a nice reminder that you don't necessarily just need the quarterback to win a Super Bowl, right? Like you can build a team and have a dominant group basically up and down the roster without having, an MVP type candidate, right? Like a top 3 quarterback. Jalen Hurts, even after the win, right? Like, I don't know, probably in the 5 to 10 range of quarterbacks in the NFL, but probably closer to 10, if we're being totally honest. It's just nice to know that, hey, yeah, we can run the ball, we can play great defense, and that's enough to beat one of the greatest teams of all time. So I kind of like that reminder of it. But I don't know. KC's defense tried to limit the damage as much as they could. It's just the real story is the complete dismantling and evisceration of that Kansas City offense.
Well, I've spent a lot of time thinking about that game last night and comparisons. And here's the thing. Listen, Mahomes stunk in the first quarter or in the first half, but a lot of that was the Eagles doing. I mean, he was rushed. He didn't have time. He was getting sacked. And he was in a position where he felt he had to take some chances and got absolutely burned on it. But if you think back to the Giants beating Tom Brady and the Patriots, well, how did they do that?
Yep.
They got a ton of pressure on him without blitzing. The 4 guys up front made Brady's life miserable. That was the exact blueprint last night. And when you're getting that sort of pressure consistently every single play without having to bring anybody else up, it's a big, big hill to climb. And the Chiefs just simply didn't have an answer for those big guys up front on the Philly D line.
No, and it was, again, kind of refreshing too. There was no exotic blitz packages or stunts. It was just, we're bigger and stronger than you.
Yeah.
And how do you stop that? So, like, if the guy in front of you is bigger than you, like, and stronger and pushing you back, there's very little that can be done there. So that's the elixir. How do you beat Mahomes? How do you beat Brady? It's simple in theory, right? If you can get home with 4 guys, you're going to give up less than 14 points. Like, it's almost impossible for any offense to find a way to beat that. And I mean, 40% of his dropbacks were pressures and 0 blitzes on the night.
It felt like 90%
numbers. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and listen, I mean, so many of the numbers are skewed. I mean, even the score, 40-22. I mean, that was putting lipstick on a pig for the Chiefs. I mean, it was 40-6 at one point. That's really what happened. And then obviously Worthy got in for a couple touchdowns late. And when you're giving credit around, Vic Fangio, masterful performance by his defense. And again, that was the blueprint. Oh, we're not going to need to blitz. These guys will take care of business up front. And, it was basically won on the line of scrimmage in a landslide. And to be honest, Brandon, the Chiefs' offensive line has been a bit of a house of cards all season long. To move Joe Thuney out to left tackle because you couldn't take care of Patrick Mahomes a few weeks ago, and then to have that be the plan going forward. I'm sure that's going to be a very particular spot that Brett Veach is going to be looking to improve next year. But Thuney, who's an all-pro, got pushed around last night out on the outside. And listen, it'll be a big party for days, maybe weeks in Philadelphia. I'm not sure if any of those lampposts are still standing right now.
Oh, they're greased up, baby. Don't worry. they took them down first time around, but
it is kind of wild that 3 weeks ago we were talking about a team that almost blew that game against the Rams.
I know, it's crazy, and that's also why it's crazy that the Chiefs even made it to 3 in a row. Just because of all the little things that have, think of all their matchups with the Bills, how quickly it can turn, right?
Oh.
But I was thinking about that while, I was kind of awaiting the inevitable Mahomes comeback, but it didn't happen. But it was just like, Matt Stafford was literally 10 yards away from ending this before it even happened, right?
And then they forgot to block Jalen Carter for some reason.
Yeah, which, bizarre strategy, but they went with it, and it bit them. But, there was a very real opportunity that we would be talking about this Eagles team as one of the greatest choke jobs in history. And now this is the most complete team we've seen in the NFL. And narratives can change very, very quickly there. So that's why it's amazing Kansas City made it this far to begin with, just because you need so many things to go right. But I think it's also a testament to, one last shout out I think we have to give is to the best executive in pro sports, and that's Howie Roseman.
Everything other than drafting wide receivers.
Well, he fit the Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson fiasco was basically his like villain origin story. He got that wrong, and it's unleashed a wave of terror across the rest of the NFL. But like to build two Super Bowl champs with different quarterbacks, different head coaches, different coordinators, different everything is like unfathomable to do in such a short amount of time. And he set them up at least to compete over the next 3, 4, 5 years, which is about as long as you could hope for in the NFL. So we might get ourselves a rubber match sometime down the road. So we'll I guess to try to put a little bit of optimism into your day, maybe that's something to potentially look forward to.
The Chiefs still have Mahomes. They've still got Andy Reid. It does seem like this was a little bit of a time's up on this team, though, for this season. I mean, they won so many games by the thinnest of margins. Yeah. It seemed like it all got paid back over the course of 60 minutes. All of that good fortune, everything, just in a reverse avalanche that made for a really long day. But like, this is the thing. Like, to your point, and I could take some solace. Hey, the team won the last 2 Super Bowls. Yes, they were going to they were going for history, which would have, put them in a special class. But knowing how hard it is, the fact that, Mahomes goes to the AFC Championship game every single year, has played in 5 of these games. I mean, I'm a long enough Chief fan to remember that was a pipe dream going to 1 10 years ago and the previous 15 before that. So, but listen, credit where credit is due. The Eagles, very deserving Super Bowl champs, and now they will be the standard going to next season. We know it's a copycat league. Good time to be a free agent defensive end. And by the way, speaking of defensive ends, it sounds like there's going to be a bunch available. Potentially Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett in Cleveland. If you're looking to try to emulate what the Eagles did, some big time difference makers, but that will come with a hefty price tag right now. Brad, let's talk about something that, at least for me, is much more positive topic. Jets at the break, number 1 overall in the league, 8-game winning streak right now. It has been, as I said, we're not just talking about a hot start, 15 of the first 16 games. I mean, we're well into 2/3 away into the season right now, and a well-earned break for the fellas. But man, you can now really start gearing up for the postseason and understand what's at hand, not to mention the potential of winning the West and getting that 8th seed in the first round and having a home ice throughout the playoffs, at least in the Western Conference.
And doing so with Adam Lowry out of the lineup for all of, if not the majority of, it's crazy. It's we didn't need any validation or confirmation on this, but think how good that team was last year, and it's night and day compared to what this team is like this season. It's just a completely different beast. I mean, basically everything that they needed to go right has gone right and then some. And they show no real signs of slowing down whatsoever. Like, it really is remarkable, the level that they've been able to maintain for weeks and months here. And I mean, I think this is their 3rd 7 or 8 game win streak of the season. It's just numbers that are unfathomable. And there's, already, I mean, Dallas is on pace for 106 points or something, and they're getting speed raced right now by the Jets in the standings. So last year felt like maybe this could be a special year, and obviously it didn't end up anywhere near where people wanted it to. But it feels like that quotient has just been amplified, 3-4 times that year. Where, all right, this might be our one shot at it here, in terms of striking while the iron is hot with the team playing as well as they are right now. Also combined with the fact that, especially in the Central, with some injuries some of those other teams are dealing with, it's maybe not as fearsome as it has been in the past. So, yeah, you want to go full unbridled optimism as a Jets fan with how this team is looking right now, you have 100% reason to do so. And it's pretty wild that, when they get back at it after the tournament here, like they keep this going for just a couple more weeks, they might have that number 1 divisional seat at least locked up. And that's half the battle right there. But they've certainly set themselves up nicely, where the conversation in the final 15 or so games can be rest versus rust, as opposed to where are we going to fit in the grand scheme of things as a 1 seed, a 2 seed, or a 3 seed. So it's just been an absolutely remarkable stretch, specifically over these last 2 weeks.
There's so many numbers that we can point to. You mentioned Dallas, and Dallas is tied for 3rd overall in the NHL. They're 9 points back of the Jets right now. I mean, like the cushion that the Jets and the Caps have at the top of the conferences is, I mean, it's wild. At 81 points through 56 games. Edmonton and Vegas are also at 72. And really right now, I mean, we're not really talking about the Central Division anymore. We're talking about getting that number 1 seed. Right now, it's Vancouver that's in that spot. They've got a 3-point lead on Calgary, but it really does sort of feel like it's going to be one of Vancouver or Calgary. And with all due respect to those teams, I'd way rather get in and try and get a round under your belt, considering the last couple of years against one of those two teams, than have to deal with pretty much anybody in the Central Division, despite the success the Jets have had inside the division this year. And then let Dallas and Colorado beat the hell out of each other in the first round, or potentially Minnesota, as they're right in the mix as well. That's
exactly it. That is more so than maybe other years, is the ultimate prize that Winnipeg needs to be after right now. Like like you said, look, if it was Vancouver or Calgary, the Jets would be overwhelming favorites, maybe 75% likely to win that series. So it's no guarantee.
No,
but you're just talking about, as far as the path to the Stanley Cup goes, it's just miles better than what they could hope for. And then, like you said there, let the other teams eliminate each other. Hey, I would love a conversation where it's like, well, they had the easiest path to the Cup final we've ever seen. Great, that's awesome. I think I kind of laugh when people are like, well, you want to have the hardest possible test. No, make it as easy as possible. And that's what doing it, going up against the second wild card, would be there. And I mean, Demko's hurt again for Vancouver. I mean, they're just kind of a whole different sort of a mess right now. And as great of a story as Calgary's been, it's just overwhelming advantages for Winnipeg up and down both of those rosters there. So I mean, look, the chase for first in the West is massive. I wouldn't even say, Huss, I know it's more a material thing than anything, but I think the chase for a President's Trophy is a huge thing too. A lot of people kind of want to avoid it. They talk about the curse of the President's Trophy winner, which isn't actually a real thing if you look at how often those teams do win the Stanley Cup. But I mean, that's a remarkable achievement in and of itself, right? Yes, only one team wins the cup, but to win a President's Trophy it's a season as a fan that you'll never forget. And you want to enjoy the championships when they do come, but watching a kick-ass team for 82 games is also a pretty good time too. So I hope when it comes down to it, if it comes down to it, they don't shy away from that necessarily. And they, kind of thread that line of giving some guys some rest, but also chasing that number 1 spot overall. Because I do think there's a lot of importance and a lot of meaning behind that. And it would be pretty amazing to see. Hopefully it's 2 banners that get raised, but to have that honor, I think it is something worth celebrating and chasing.
No, you're exactly right. And this team has never won the Central. They blew it in 2017-18. You remember at the end. Well, I shouldn't say they blew it in 2019.
Right. Yeah.
Where they ended up getting caught and then played St. Louis in the first round. And in 17-18, they, I believe, finished second overall, but second to Nashville. Yeah. And we could see, I just mentioned Dallas is 3rd overall. The Jets could run the table and finish as the number 1 team and could theoretically still get the number 3 overall team in the second round of the playoffs. So, nothing's guaranteed, and certainly nothing's going to be easy, but they put themselves in a great spot, and I'm with you. It would be very cool to see a President's Trophy banner hanging up at Canada Life Center, a First Division title banner. But I think we all know the banner that everybody wants is one that you don't get until you win 4 rounds in the playoffs. Speaking of the NHL, we're on a break right now. We'll continue to look ahead to what's to come after the break, but we got 4 Nations coming up this week. Where's your level of intrigue, excitement for our first true best on best in a decade?
I gotta be honest, it's not as high as I thought it would be. I've kind of like I don't know if the NHL's done a great job of marketing this either, outside of the goofy commercials they run every commercial break during intermission and things like that. But
Trump's been doing his best to stoke the fires between some of the participating teams.
That first Canada-US game is going to be amazing. And maybe that's when it'll kind of fully kick in there. I mean, I've also been of the mind right from the get-go that I think the NHL made a huge mistake by not making this a Summit Series 2.0, 3.0, Canada versus the US in a best-of-5 type series. I think that was the way to go, but I mean, once it gets underway, it's going to be pretty awesome. And you know, never thought I'd say this, but hopefully Crosby's able to be there and suit up for Team Canada, just because of the novelty and the cool factor of McDavid, McKinnon, and Crosby all on the same team there together. But maybe once the games actually get closer to happening, there'll be a little more excitement. It kind of sucks seeing Finland just get decimated before the tournament's even begun there, where they were in it tough to begin with, and they're in an even bigger hole now with all their injuries. But like I don't know. I can't say I'm super excited for Canada, Finland, Canada, Sweden, even though that'll be a great game. The Canada-US game, that's going to be a beauty, and there'll be a lot of. The nice thing too is I can kind of create the narrative that I want, depending on what the result is. Like if Canada loses, this tournament's made up. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Canada wins. Well. You come at the king, you best not miss. So we'll see. Maybe it'll start to amp up a little bit over the next couple.
Well, and when our king might be doing it for Team USA in their net, wearing 37. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing Josh, obviously, and Kyle and Connor get a chance to do their thing. And yes, I mean, Saturday night, that Canada-USA game is going to be bananas. And fingers crossed, we'll get a rematch regardless of what happens in that first game in Boston, February 20th in the final. You know, that is what the National Hockey League is hoping for. And I mean, certainly based by the odds, those are the top two favorites, but short tournament, you got to get. By the way, Crosby did practice today. He says he's good to go, which unfortunately for Mark Scheifele probably means that he won't get the opportunity. And I mean, it goes without saying, he's done everything that he could have possibly done to be on this team. It's criminal, frankly, based on the season that he's having, that he is not there. However, from a Jets perspective, Brandon, we can only hope that this snub continues to propel him in a similar way that he's been since he was officially not named to the team. I believe he's scored more than any Canadian since that happened, including 4 against the Boston Bruins and Don Sweeney when they had the opportunity to play head-to-head.
I mean, I'll maintain he was a brutal snub when the team was first announced. He had done more than enough to play his way onto the team. I thought as a player in the top 9, like I don't know. I think he can shift out to the wing and be just fine there. But I thought it was, like you said, criminal not to have him on the team in the first place. But selfishly, from a Winnipeg perspective, is this maybe not the best way to kind of have him motivated down the stretch?
I don't disagree.
Rested, refreshed on a vengeance tour. I mean, there's still the Olympics next year too, right? So it's not like this is just a one and done sort of a deal. It's like, hey, you know, I keep this up over the next 3-4 months. The Olympics obviously are a more important deal, and I can basically cement myself on that roster here. So if this wants to be the Mark Scheifele revenge tour for the rest of the 24-25 season, I'm all down for that. From a selfish perspective, I almost hope that there are no injuries and he doesn't get in, because it can then be, okay, let's find out what you guys were missing there over these next handful of regular season games and then the playoffs afterwards. But I would agree that it sucks. He should be there. He should be with Josh Morrissey on Team Canada. That's the one nice thing, is I think maybe the hockey fans that aren't familiar with his game are going to find out that Josh Morrissey is, no doubt about it, a top 5 defenseman in the NHL right now. Not just for Team Canada, but for the entire NHL. I think he's going to have himself a nice little coming out party in this tournament. Yeah,
it seems he's skating with Parayko. They're going to have Taves and McCarr together. It looks like Doughty's playing with Theodore, and then Josh with Parayko, and we'll see where how things shake up on the power play units as well. Well, Brandon, congrats again. I mean, is the burning couch out of your front yard yet after last night, or?
Yeah, we've got a few we got a few extinguishers on the way, so we'll take care of the riot gear that took place. But yeah, it's a pretty damn good Monday, man. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I will say this. I know it's your birthday today, so I thought maybe I could just sing you a little happy birthday just to kind of get you in the mood.
You know what?
EAGLES. EAGLES.
Boot him. Hey, congrats again, buddy. Good stuff. Enjoy Four Nations. We'll talk next week.
Yeah, sounds good, man. We'll talk soon. Have a good one.
All right, good stuff with Rewucki. Mike McIntyre is going to join us in a few moments. Do want to give a big thanks to our friends at Princess Auto for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto synonymous with the city of Winnipeg. Of course, our Blue Bombers play at Princess Auto Stadium. And Princess Auto, founded in Winnipeg, headquartered in Winnipeg, and now coast to coast, but with 3 locations in Winnipeg to serve you. Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, Brandon for our friends out in Westman. And of course, Princess Auto is where you find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them in store or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Also have to thank Wallace & Wallace for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Wallace & Wallace are Winnipeg's fencing and overhead door specialists, serving residential and commercial customers since 1946. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter's doing a number on your current one, give them a call. They've got vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, wood fences, any kind that you need. They've got your hookup. Obviously, the leader in temporary fencing as well in the city. And if it's time to replace your garage door, Wallace & Wallace has the largest selection of overhead garage doors in town, one to perfectly match your home and add value to it as well. Give them a call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also check them out online, wallacefences.com, wallacedoors.com, or pop down and see them in person at their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Kenaston. Just before we bring in Mike, fellas, if you're in the market to up your menswear game, you know where to go for that. Downtown, 190 Smith Street, and see our pals over at F Apparel, the #1 spot in Winnipeg for custom men's clothing, including custom suits starting at just $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the biggest and best selection of menswear accessories in the city. Of course, grads, you're going to want to be getting ready for that big day. They've got a great deal for high school grads coming up. And if you're in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the fellas at F about a special discount for the wedding party when you and the fellas get your suits for the big day at F Apparel. Find out more in person, 190 Smith Street, or check them out online and make an appointment to come in for a fitting at F. That's EPH Apparel.com. All right, let's bring Mike McIntyre into the program. And Mike, thank God for the Winnipeg Jets. I can focus in on that, although if there was ever a time for the team to be off, maybe now isn't it, because I don't have anything to take my mind off yesterday. What did you think about that blowout in the Super Bowl?
First of all, if there was a Winnipeg Sports Talk flag, Huss, would it be flying at half-mast today?
I mean, I can't speak for Remis. I know he wasn't as emotionally invested, but yes, right. I'm in a one-day mourning period, and then I will get up tomorrow, still incredibly happy and fortunate to be a Chiefs fan during this incredible run, and also very thankful that my hockey team is in first place overall, and I can put all of my attention and focus on positive vibes for the final 26 games of the regular season. And, of course, hopefully a very fun and long playoff run here in Winnipeg.
What did I think of the game? I mean, I had no dog in the fight. I just wanted an entertaining game, so I was disappointed. It was kind of a dud, right? It was not an entertaining game, and it's too bad. That's all I hope for. I wanted to see it come down maybe to the wire, one score game, but yeah, it was all the drama was kind of, the air was out of the balloon by halftime. That's for sure. So yeah, it was pretty forgettable, all things considered. And good on the Eagles. I mean, it's like the Chiefs spent kind of 2 weeks trying to figure out how to stop Saquon Barkley, but they forgot about all the other weapons that the Eagles had. And I mean, I know there's a lot of debate about Patrick Mahomes. I personally think Patrick Mahomes is an elite quarterback. How could you not think that? He'd won 2 straight. And people, of course, are going to now use this to kind of try and rail against him. Yeah, was it a good time to have maybe the worst game of his career? Of course not. But I'm just disappointed it wasn't a more entertaining contest. The big game, if you will, was a bit of a bust in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, listen, credit to Philly. They got a lead. They continue to build on it. They didn't take their foot off the gas. And, Hurts and the offense played great, but that defensive line just terrorized Mahomes. And
yeah,
as I said, it's a very deja vu day as to 4 years ago after the Tampa Super Bowl, where the Chiefs just were not able to block them. And Mahomes was running for his life all day long. The positive, as I mentioned to Brandon and Remis, the last time this happened, I took my medicine for a full 3 hours on 1290, told everyone, I'll see you tomorrow. We move on. And then the next morning, they shut the station down. So that was, in fact, the last ever show on 1290. As I said earlier, I guarantee we'll be back tomorrow, so this won't happen. And, we've got a lot to talk about, Mike, as we get to this point of the Jets at the half. Just before we touch on the Four Nations, 8 in a row, another great performance at home. We had a big crew from Winnipeg Sports Talk up in 316, just had a great time on Friday night. And this team, 9-point lead over the Dallas Stars, Edmonton Oilers, and Vegas Golden Knights. All those teams are tied for 3rd overall in the NHL, Mike. Yeah, and the Jets have that sort of cushion right now through 56.
It's completely bananas. It really is. And, is it too early, Huss, to start talking about magic numbers? It doesn't feel that way. I'm just looking. I've got the NHL stats pulled up right now. Like, usually there's a team during the regular season that kind of, maybe separates itself. I just can't remember. I'd have to go back. When's the last time that the number one team was leading in like every category? So here, Jets wins 39. That's 3 clear of the next best team, Washington. Points 81. The Jets are obviously number one in that sense. How about the fact that they're number one in goals for per game, 361, and goals against per game, and they have a pretty healthy lead. They're at 2.39. The Devils are second at 2.47. Power play, number one, and not just by a little bit. They're almost 5.5% clear of the next best team on the PP. And if the season ended today, that 33.3% power play would literally be the greatest in NHL history. If you were trying to find one area to nitpick, maybe it's the penalty kill, but even that, Huss, is now, don't look now, it's in the top echelon of the NHL, the upper tier, if you will. They're now 14th at a pretty respectable 79.7%, and that's been steadily climbing over the last little while. There is not much to pick apart when it comes to this Jets team, and I suppose if you're a fan, maybe the only thing to worry about is, are they peaking too early? Is there such a thing as peaking too early? And of course, this Jets team, because of previous recent playoff failures, will kind of carry that. I don't know if it's a dark cloud. It will carry that over their heads into the playoffs this year. And it feels like a bit of a dragon that they're going to have to slay. But, given where they are right now, they would seem to be in prime position to take a real run at slaying that dragon.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I think this goes back to training camp. I mean, they kind of owned it. I mean, we talked to Eric Comrie. He said, this is not something we're always talking about it, but I mean, we were very honest with each other about what needed to happen for us to take that next step. And they've literally done it from day one of the regular season right now up until this break. But we go through everything. The lead is crazy. They've got this massive gap between them and everyone else. How much of it is this power play? Because, I mean, if you want to look at where the team was last year, Rick Bowness said it on the show to me. It said, if we had a league average power play, we'd probably win the President's Trophy. I mean, they're not just talking about being first. You mentioned, I mean, more than 5 percentage points between Winnipeg and the Vegas Golden Knights. I look at a lot of things this team has done well, Mike, but I think I would argue that the reason why the team is where they are right now, this power play that has been nuclear all season and shows no sign of letting up, to me is the biggest difference between last year's very competitive team and this year's team, which is truly at the top of it all.
Oh, I would agree, because you'd need more than one hand, I think, Huss. If we were to go through all 56 games this year, we would need more than one hand to count games where you could say special teams won them the game, and specifically the power play. Whereas last year, I mean, I remember many a game where you'd come out of that game and say, my goodness, that was there for the taking, but special teams cost them again. And it's been a completely opposite story. Now, the one caveat I'll say to that is, at least recently, and maybe this is the most positive sign of all about this recent franchise tying win streak, because I mean, that alone is an incredible stat, Huss. They've tied their franchise record twice this season already, and there's still 26 games left for franchise long winning streak. But lately, there haven't been a lot of power plays. Like, I don't know if it's the referees are calling the games a little different. I suspect part of it has to be teams know that the Jets will kill you on the power play, and they're being more careful in terms of not taking penalties. But there's got to be more to it than that. So, you look at this recent 8-game win streak, and I don't know that we can count too many, if any, games out of that batch where you'd say the power play won them the game. I mean, it's been very good for sure, but it's just had so few opportunities lately, really since the calendar flipped to 2025. There was a stretch where the Jets had 3 games in a 10-game span where they didn't even get a power play, that's unheard of. So the fact that they can keep finding ways to win, even if they're not getting a whole lot of power plays, is certainly a good sign, right? Because you look ahead to the playoffs, it's a different style of hockey, right? And the standard of officiating seems to change a little bit come the postseason. So, maybe they can't count on 5 or 6 power plays a game probably in the postseason. But if they can make teams pay, even if they're only getting 2 or 3, and if you can pretty much mark them down for a goal a game, and that's what they've been doing, that's quite a weapon in the arsenal. And the other thing to me, Huss, that's really encouraging, we're 56 games into the season. Other teams have had ample opportunity to watch video, to pre-scout what the Jets are doing, what Davis Payne is doing. And yet they continue, not just they're actually getting better, it would seem. I mean, their power play over these last couple weeks is even running at a higher clip than 33.3. So that's a really good sign. And I think that just speaks to the fact that this isn't the same old predictable, static power play where you knew what everybody was going to do and it was very easy to defend. The Jets have been able to counter the counter that other teams are trying to throw at them, and that's a great sign.
Mike, I know Elliot Friedman touched on this a little bit today on 32 Thoughts, but what do you think the chances Ville Heinola is still a member of the Winnipeg Jets on the 8th of March?
I actually think it's pretty high, and let me explain why. I don't believe Ville Heinola has much trade value at all right now. I really don't. And we could spend a lot of time talking about why that is. But that's the fact. Like, what are they getting back for him if they traded him? He's certainly not a centerpiece of a trade, that's for sure. Are you even getting a mid-round draft pick at this point? And so here's what I'd say to the idea, the trade him now camp that I know is out there. Why? If you're the Winnipeg Jets, what possible value is a 5th round draft pick going to offer you? You're trying to win right now. And no, Ville Heinola is not a part of what you're trying to do. But let me throw this out. What if Josh Morrissey and or Neil Pionk both got hurt next game? Who's quarterbacking the power play? Who's stepping into that offensive defenseman role? I would say it's Ville Heinola. It's not, no disrespect to it's not Hayden Fleury. It's not Dylan Coughlin. So Ville Heinola, to me, is much more valuable as an insurance policy for the rest of this year than anything you're going to get back for him. Now, could he be thrown in as part of a trade with other pieces? Sure, absolutely. There may be a team that, if the Jets are doing a deadline deal, and whether they're parting with a top prospect or a 1st round pick or whatever, a team may say, we'd also like Ville Heinola. And so, sure, you might throw him in. But if we're just talking about a straight trade right now, just to, give Ville another chance, like, this isn't Timbits hockey. It's not everybody gets a participation ribbon, right? The Jets don't feel they owe Ville Heinola a fresh start, at least not right now. And why would you trade him when he is insurance against a potential injury or two, especially to a high-end offensive defenseman that he could step in? Is he the first guy up if Logan Stanley or Colin Miller or whoever gets hurt? Probably not, and we've seen that already. Would he be the first guy up, though, if suddenly you need a quarterback on PP1? And again, this is a worst-case scenario for the Jets, but whatever you get back for him, I just don't see it being of higher value right now to a team that, it fancies itself playing into June, and you want to try and cover all the potential bases that you can. So do I think he's a member of the Jets by March 8th? I do, because I think the Jets will want to have that insurance policy. And, they can revisit in the summer for sure. Do I see Ville Heinola in the long-term plans of the Winnipeg Jets? Probably not. I just don't know what they would gain from trading him right now, or at least this season.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you on that. I mean, I do see a potential path for a deal. For instance, if they were trading with a bottom feeder team, like a really young team, a young roster, that would have a chance for him to go and play, and, the team feels like there is some potential upside, maybe he's a player that gets moved for a guy that comes in, has a bit more size, that would be a 7-8 guy that, they feel is maybe a little bit more set up for the playoffs. Because I think at this point, there is an element of, you need to figure this out. I mean, he's not just going to be in the press box forever. But to your point, the advantage of getting a mid-round draft pick for a guy like that,
who cares,
helps you only so much. And there could be a need for him to get into the lineup at some point. And you're probably better off having that insurance policy than just cutting bait on it before you really have to.
Yeah, I mean, another interesting factor for me, Huss, and I'm writing a little bit about it today, but I went to the Moose game yesterday, and maybe I was the good luck charm, because the Moose have not been good at all this year, but they were great yesterday. Elias Salamonson, fresh off a nearly 2-month injury absence, fresh off representing the Moose at the All-Star game. He looked dynamic yesterday. He had 2 assists. I spoke to him after the game. He's feeling great. Chances are, if he hadn't have got hurt for that nearly 2-month window, we might have already seen him in a brief audition. And he's putting up some significant points for the Moose. In fact, look at the Moose scoring right now. Points per game, Elias Salamonson, he's ahead of everybody. He's ahead of Brad Lambert. He's ahead of Nikita Chibrikov, who's now hurt. He's ahead of Parker Ford. He leads the Moose in points per game. There's some offense to what he can do. And so when we talk about Ville, different defenseman, obviously, but like Ville's on the verge of being lapped by a younger prospect that's now healthy again on the farm. And to your point, Huss, like if the Jets have some confidence that if the need arose, that Elias Salamonson could step in and perhaps add some value, then maybe they're a little more comfortable with moving on from Ville as that potential insurance policy. But yeah, I mean, I just don't think a Ville for whatever trade on its own makes any sense this season. If it's part of a package, and it's part of a package where you're getting a defenseman back, because that's the other thing we have to keep in mind here. If the Jets were to trade for a defenseman tomorrow, they'd have to put someone on waivers. We know it won't be Logan Stanley. We absolutely know that. It probably won't be Hayden Fleury either, because he's the guy that stepped into the top 4 when Dylan Sandberg was out. And they really don't want to lose Ville for absolutely nothing. Even if you get a 5th-round pick back, that's better than nothing on waivers. So the timing of a trade would be interesting too. And it's why I personally think if the Jets trade for especially a defenseman, I don't see it happening until the trade deadline, or unless a defenseman is part of the return, because I don't think the Jets, they already have 8 guys here who all need waivers. They don't want to add a 9th and now have to lose, because that would be an acquisition cost, right? So if you trade for a defenseman tomorrow, but you now have to factor in that whatever you pay for that D, you can also add in losing Ville Heinola on waivers for nothing as part of the cost, if that's what ended up happening. And I take you back to last year when the Jets acquired Sean Monahan early, well before the trade deadline. They were at the 23-man roster. They had to make a move. The move was Declan Chisholm got put on waivers and claimed by the Minnesota Wild. The price for Sean Monahan indirectly included losing Declan Chisholm. And just final point, but as of March 8th, the rosters expand. You can have 30 guys on your roster as long as you're cap compliant. So that's why, the Jets wouldn't have to put a guy on waivers if they make the trade at the trade deadline, as long as they have the cap room. And we know, based on the banking of cap space and what they've been doing, sending guys like Lambert and Ford back down to the Moose on days off, the Jets have an ample cap space, and they may be able to weaponize that with an expanded roster once the trade deadline passes.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is a good point. And I know a couple of people mentioned this in chat. Not that we want to talk about a Jet blue line without Pionk and Morrissey on it. But if they got into that situation even for a short time, I think Colin Miller, with that shot of his and some experience before on the power play, probably would be that guy that would at least get an opportunity to run with it for a while. But hopefully they can make the most of this 2 weeks off and then come back ready to go. A quick thought on the Four Nations coming up. A tough break for Mark Scheifele, but yeah. Listen, if they can keep him in this FU mode that he's been since he got snubbed for the team originally, can probably something that'll be very good for the Jets.
Yeah, I believe now Mark Scheifele will be free and clear to either resume or start, because I don't know if he actually went down there. I believe he's golfing in Palm Springs this week. That was the plan anyways. So the fact Sidney Crosby gave the all clear today would signal the end of Mark Scheifele's hopes being on standby. If just looking at the practice lines today, they must feel like kids at Christmas, right? If you're, there was Josh Morrissey, so he's on the second second D pairing with Colton Parayko, pardon me, but he's on the second power play unit, and quite the weapons on that second unit. Shea Theodore, Mark Stone, Mitch Marner, and Braden Point. How's that for a second PP unit? How about the Winnipeggers too? Stone. So I'm just looking at the lines here. What Stone was on the top line. Talk about a plum position for the Winnipegger. Mark Stone with Sidney Crosby and Nate McKinnon. You had the other Winnipegger, Seth Jarvis. He's with Braden Point and Brad Marchand. And I saw on Twitter, Huss, that his locker room stall is located in between Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid. Pretty nice landing spot for Seth Jarvis to be able to turn either way and talk hockey. And then Kyle Connor, we wondered what that might look like. And there he is on the top line with Jack Eichel and Matthew Tkachuk. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch starting Wednesday night. I know, I've seen a lot of people on social media is kind of shredding this tournament, calling it a glorified all-star game, blah, blah, blah. I can tell you the players themselves, they do not view it at all like that. And
that is the worst take around right now.
This is extremely meaningful for the players, unlike all-star games. And they are treating this is not going to be a glorified exhibition at all.
Hell no.
And I think the fact that the Olympics are a year away is a part of that as well, because this is, in a way, this is an audition. This is a huge stage. This is an audition for an even bigger stage in a year from now. So I expect the hockey is going to be fantastic. This is not going to be like what we saw in 3-on-3 at the All-Star game, where guys are just kind of going through the motions. Far from it. It should be fantastic.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Wednesday night we get Canada, Sweden, and then Saturday Canada, USA, and Montreal. And fingers crossed we'll get that again in the final on February 20th. Mike, thanks so much for doing this, buddy. Always great catching up with you.
You bet, Huss. And once again, my condolences.
Yes. Well, we'll gonna have to ask Lapo about that game. Paul LaPolice coming up ahead of CFL Free Agency tomorrow. Just quickly before we bring in Lapo, a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
Day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
We're just talking about the Four Nations. No Jets hockey for the next couple weeks, but Boston Pizza is going to be the place to be for all the Canada games and really all the games in the tournament. Wednesday night, Saturday night, the two games for Canada in Montreal. Get on out to your local BP, cheer on Canada with some ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. And if you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering hot and fresh to your door at bostonpizza.com. And some of you may have seen on the weekend, I am ready for Four Nations. I got my Canada jersey done up with Josh Morrissey on it. Fired that one out on Twitter, but I was at Royal Sports on the weekend. The jerseys are in all four teams. Absolutely beautiful kits. They're available there if you want to get it. They've got some hats and some other stuff in for Four Nations as well. But they won't be around for long. So if you're looking to get your hands, particularly on a Canada jersey, I'd suggest you get down to Royal Sports today. Of course, Royal Sports is at 750 Pembina Highway. Biggest Jets and Bombers section in town. So many exclusive Jets hats with those collabs they did with New Era. You got to check them out. But Royal Sports, you know where it is, 750 Pembina Highway. And follow them on Instagram for the latest merchandise drops and sale information over at Royal Sports Winnipeg. All right, let's bring in the coach, Paul LaPolice. I would like to just focus on CFL Free Agency, but I'd be remiss even as much as I don't want to talk about it, by seeing what Paul thought about the absolute smashing of my Chiefs by the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a Super Bowl worthy performance by the guys in green, Lapo.
Yeah, and I think especially you knew that the Philadelphia Eagles were going to have a good opportunity to get the ball downfield and pass the ball because of how Saquon Barkley, they were trying to stop the run so much. But I was just so surprised how well Philly's defense has been great all year, but like how they were able to rush with 4 people and just, I don't care what quarterback's back there. If you cannot protect the quarterback, he's going to have a long day. So it was pretty amazing to see how well his defense, how well they played and were able to just dominate the football game. And you never saw rhythm from the Chiefs. You never saw them in a position where they could run the ball for explosive runs, and they certainly could not hold up in any of their pass protections. And Mahomes never could get in any type of rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, it reminded me of. Now, again, this was far more lopsided in the end. But you think about the way the New York Giants were able to beat the Patriots those 2 times. I mean, it was doing exactly that. It was getting to Brady and doing it with only 4 pass rushers, and then having the support in the secondary, in the linebacking unit to cover up everything else. I mean, that's why they were able to stay in that game. In this, though, when you combine with what their offense was able to do, despite Saquon Barkley not having a big game, Lapo, I mean, they really won that game on the line of scrimmage, particularly from a defensive standpoint.
Yeah, and they never put themselves in a position whatsoever to they never put them in. There are so many times that there were sacks. Patrick Mahomes was in long yardage situations, and you're just not. It's so hard to convert second and third and long in any league. So for them to be in long yardage situations, it just played into what the Eagles wanted to do. And I like this too. Well, I believe it was big lead. Third quarter, late in the third quarter, they come out and they're up a couple of touchdowns, at least 3 touchdowns, and they do a hard play action, huge touchdown down the middle of the field. I love that call to be able to hey, let's put this game away. The game, there's still some time left. Let's make sure we're going to be Super Bowl champs. So hats off to the Philadelphia Eagles. Great game plan.
Yeah, I mean, listen, everyone's seen Mahomes do some incredible things when down, and they didn't want to even make that a possibility. Right. And credit to them for doing it. Listen, when the coach is getting the Gatorade shower before the 2-minute warning, you know that it is how they could have done it in the third quarter. Yeah. But that being said, Paul, I mean, from a coaching standpoint, what Kansas City's been able to do, and Mahomes in particular, 7 straight AFC championships, 5 Super Bowl appearances, 3 wins. Like, this game yesterday is going to be a tough look on the incredible resume that he's put together. But when you take a little bit of a step back, I mean, what Andy Reid and that unit have done year after year, it is pretty special. And you know that they'll be doing everything they can to get back to the big game with a better result next season.
Andy Reid's a great football coach. There's a couple things. He does a great job. I think the second thing, and obviously Patrick Mahomes is, going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks to play the game. But the other thing I think is an overlooked thing is Steve Spagnuolo does a great job defensively. He's been there a number of years. Well, he's already been a head coach. And he's not really getting those opportunities again. And Matt Nagy as an offensive coordinator, similar situation. So normally when you have this type of success, your coordinators are taking head coaching jobs. Look at what happened to the Detroit Lions. They lose both coordinators. But these guys have already kind of had their turn, and they're willing and deserving another head coaching opportunities, but sometimes it doesn't come around. So the consistency for a winning team to keep all those coaches, I think, is another reason for their success.
Lapo, let's get to, tomorrow, obviously, CFL Free Agency happens officially, but it's been a very busy week of players agreeing. What have you made of the big moves so far? And going into tomorrow, who do you think has made the most progress in this early point of the offseason?
Yeah, the one thing I really like that, I will say this, is I thought Edmonton did an outstanding job of replacing high-priced Americans, Eugene Lewis, and replacing him with a bunch of Canadians. So they got help on the offensive line with number of Canadians. They got Canadian receivers. They got a lot of players that I think you get rid of high-priced Americans And especially when I came into the league and when the GMs I first worked with, they're always like, you cannot put too much money into your American receivers. It's our job to go find the next Dalton Schoen, the next Kenny Lawler, whoever that person is. If you look at a couple of guys from the Winnipeg team, your job is to go find, there's more receivers out there than other positions. There's certainly more receivers than Canadians. So I really felt that Edmonton did a good job solidifying their O-line, defensive line, brought in a bunch of players, get Jake Ceresna back, who's an impact player. What I thought hurt Edmonton last year is they were playing a bunch of young players after losing some talented defensive linemen, Jake Ceresna being one of them, and they were losing 20 sacks. How are they going to replace them? Well, they get some talented defensive players. Ed Hervey says he's going to fix the O-line, D-line. I thought he did a really good job of making sure. Bringing David Baird back is another great one. I did not understand why they let that player, a good offensive lineman who's a hometown boy, leave, but they get him back. So I thought Edmonton did a really nice job.
How big of a hit do you think the Bombers have taken? Kenny Lawler's gone, Drew Olatarski's gone, Trey Ford's gone, Liam Dobson, who's a big part of that offensive line. How much catching up are the Bombers going to have to do based on other guys that have left the fold?
So sometimes always, I think the fans have to look at who stayed. So if you look at a couple of things, Willie Jefferson's still in the building. Okay, so they were able to keep Willie Jefferson. Well, Dalton Schoen was an outstanding receiver, spectacular. They're able to keep him. So you cannot continue to sign too many guys. Stanley Bryan's still in the building, right? They've gotten good players, but you also sometimes have to let good players go, especially when you've had a lot of success. And at the receiver position, you cannot pay too many guys. But here's a couple of things I thought the Bombers did well. Dylan Mitchell is, already been signed because he was released. That's a great signing. He led the Canadian Football League in yards per catch. And when he had his opportunity at Edmonton, he was outstanding last season. So there's a player who hopefully has played a lot of games in the CFL, can fill a role and step in. Drew Olatarski, who I love, was fortunate enough to coach him for a couple years. But when you're on your third or fourth contract as a field receiver or and he could play a number of spots, but as the Canadian receiver, the second Canadian receiver behind Dembski, those guys get expensive. Sooner or later in the cap world, you're going to have to play somebody younger. And I believe Clarcius played for him a little bit last year. So they get some cap relief to be able to sign Dalton Schoen. And that's what you have to do sometimes. They signed a linebacker, Jones, from Toronto, who I think is a very athletic linebacker, played middle linebackers, made a bunch of plays on special teams. Air Bears back, Kyrie's, they re-signed the Will linebacker and Shane Gauthier, and now they got Jones coming in. So now they got a couple of linebackers core. James Vaughters is another guy they signed, right? They brought him in. So now, if you think about last year, Winnipeg had placed so many young defensive linemen. It was Willie Jefferson, a bunch of young guys. Well, hopefully they've got some guys with some CFL experience who've played a little bit, and now they can hopefully get the productivity they need. And Vaughters is a good signing. He's played for Calgary. Will he be an impact player? I don't know that, but he's got some experience compared to when they went through the injuries last year and played a lot of young guys.
Lapo, wanted to ask you about Jason Logan, the new OC here in Winnipeg. Did you work with him at all?
No, I never worked with Jason. I've heard great things about him and everything from players and coaches. I like this hire because, I think for Osh, he wanted to, I haven't spoken to Osh or anything, but when you heard him in his press conference, he talked about, he's earned it. And he's worked real hard to do that, so they're rewarding him. But he's also a very good coach. But also it keeps the consistency in their system they run. Good Lord, I guess that's from 2016. Since I was there, I'm sure Buck put his spin on it. But now Jason gets to put his spin on it, but it's not a whole new system. If they would have brought somebody in, that person may have probably had the clout to go, all right, we're going to call this, we're going to change all the terminology, where they keep their system the same. Jarius Jackson comes in. He's not the coordinator, but he can have a lot of say in what he'd like to do maybe in the pass game, but it isn't wholesale change. And I think that was important. They got Marty Costello there, who does an outstanding job with the run game and the protections. And, Jason can can lean on Jarius in some areas. And certainly, I know he has a great relationship with Marty. And so I think it's a good hire to get some consistency in the building.
Paul LaPolice with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Lapo, if you can, help us pull the curtain back. What's going on behind the scenes right now with CFL teams? I mean, does free agency basically start last week? And, we're a day before the official start of free agency. What's happening right now in war rooms? How much are they talking to folks? And how significantly different is it tomorrow when you can actually sign guys as opposed to the tampering period that we've seen all these agreements take place already?
Yeah, it's very different nowadays because of the tampering period. Having the ability to talk to guys. I can recall, when I went out to try to get Jeremiah Masoli, at 12 noon, I was on the phone with him. And it's like, hey, buddy, here's what we're going to do. Here's the film. I've watched all the game film. Let's go ahead and watch, let's talk about what I want to do with you next year. So all those conversations have already gone. The agents and the coaches the agents and the GMs are already talking, and the agents and the coaches. But now you can actually pick up the phone and talk to the players and convince them why this is the right place to go. So I think all that heavy lifting's done. Now, the thing that was thrown a wrench in, I've heard from a lot of GMs, is the announcement last week of the cap going up, $450,000. So that being announced by the CFLPA last week, hopefully a lot of the GMs think those agreements they have already agreed to will be honored. But some people may say, hey, you got 400 more in the cap. How are we going to spend this? What are we going to do? So I don't know if the timing was best for some of these GMs trying to negotiate with all these guys. But it does make free agency a little bit, I don't think there's as many surprises tomorrow. And that's like the disadvantage of this tampering period. You'd love tomorrow to be, hey, look who signed, look who signed. But I do understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to make sure coaches and players get an opportunity to talk to each other to see if they're the right fit.
I mean, the guys that are going to market tomorrow, would most of them have already been talking to other teams and just kind of waiting to see what is officially on the table, kind of once you get to the point where you can sign a deal?
Yeah, so what's going on right now is that each team would have a tier. Let's go with the receivers. You would have, here's my number one, number two, number three, number four receivers, if they want to get receivers in the building. So then there's conversations with the agent. Hey, this is what we got to spend. Are we in the market? Yes. Okay. So then you're going to kind of work through that number one guy first. You can't get him. He's going to fall off. I can't afford him. You go to number two, then number three, then number four. So you've got a pecking order of what you want. And certainly that pecking order starts with what your priorities are. All right, I'm getting a D lineman here. So all my money's allocated to D line. Okay, my number two allocation's receiver. Oh, I didn't get the D lineman. Well, I can maybe get my 1 and 2 receiver. So for the GMs and the coaches, it's just conversations of how we spend our money. Every team right now has a list of, this is the top O lineman, this is the top defensive lineman, this is top linebacker, top special teamer, returner, all the way through. And they just kind of have conversations with agents and players about, are we the right fit? And if they, and then they just allocate their money based on who they have good conversations with.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, when we talk about, especially, the offensive positions, we've seen Geno Lewis, he's out, he's already found a new spot. I mean, Kenny Lawler's there. Dalton Schoen has been re-signed. It seems like a lot of the big names are sort of off the board, if you will. But, when we talk about how big rosters are and how many players make impacts, throughout the season, there's going to be a lot of signings tomorrow, Lapo, that I imagine might not be making the huge headlines that could be very, very important for all of the CFL teams next year.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of players that are very good value that aren't going to command top dollar. And as everybody starts to figure out, I can't get this player, I have a little bit more money to spend, I'm going to go get this person. And that's the cool part of tomorrow. You'll be able to see that. And I can't remember whether he's already signed or he's sourced, because right now all the time you're like, sources say this person's signing. What does that mean? The agent and the GM agreed, and then either the agent or the GM tells Third Down Nation or they tell the media people about that. But Peyton Logan's somebody that there's a conversation that's possibly going to the Bombers. Well, that's a good name. He's got return experience in the Canadian Football League. The Bombers, since, they last year didn't have great success in the return game. So after Janarian Grant left, so you get an experienced guy. Now you can still bring in a young guy to see if he can beat him out. But you want some experience. There's a ton of those type of guys all across the board that are going to be available that have a little bit more experience that are a better price point for you.
Lapo, this is always a very depressing day for football fans. The last day after the Super Bowl, we gotta wait months. There's no more tape to go through. What do you have cooking for the next few months as we get ready for a CFL season?
Well, you can see I'm like in a high school, right? Because my daughter's got a volleyball game, so I jumped out of her volleyball game. I did some college playoff stuff for TSN, which was a lot of fun to be able to cover the playoffs. Now I'm kind of getting ready I'm going to do some combine stuff. I'll go to the combine for TSN, start doing some draft prep, and going back and watching old film. Today I was watching some stuff on Montreal and just trying to kind of watch teams. And the other hard part is trying to make sure I'm just like a GM. Like I'm trying to go every day when somebody's signed, I go, okay, Montreal signed this player or Winnipeg signed this player. So I'm trying to stay ahead of the work that happens in the fall, in the spring of what the roster looks like. I'm trying to get ahead of that game for my knowledge. And that's about it.
Well, we'll look forward to more content on the YouTube channel. If you haven't already, Paul LaPolice on YouTube, check it out. Lots of great content from last year, and I'm sure we'll have some more heading in to this upcoming season. Lapo, enjoy the day tomorrow. Should be interesting to see where the dominoes fall here in the Canadian Football League. And as always, thanks for doing this. Good luck to the squad and the rest of the volleyball match.
Yep. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. There's Coach Paul LaPolice with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Let's get Remo back in here. And Reem, I am very intrigued as to, who we hear coming into the fold tomorrow. But as we just talked with Lapo, I think it's going to be a bunch of guys that might not be household names coming to earn spots, to compete for spots. And if the one thing the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have done a good job at over the years is when they have had holes, they've brought in a number of players to compete for those positions. And they've usually have a pretty good track record of finding guys that can get the job done.
Yeah, you mentioned looking for that next American receiver. Dalton Schoen was the one they found a couple years ago. Ontario Wilson this past season, he signed with the Jets of the NFL. So we'll see what happens there. DB, they brought in all those DBs at a training camp a couple years ago. Found Alford, who went to the NFL. Found Dietrich Nichols there. They lost Tyrell Ford, but who was the one? Bonds was the one last year. Who was a young player. So Bombers have been able to find players. We did have a couple signings over the weekend. They did announce Chris Strevler. He's coming back. Curious what kind of role that they give him. When he was in, they didn't really ask him to throw a whole lot, mostly running. And there was reports yesterday that Bombers signed Shea Paterson. So we'll wait for those to be all confirmed tomorrow. Lapo mentioned Peyton Logan. I think it's an interesting name as a returner, and Jeff Hamilton of the Free Press will join you, for some full CFL free agency discussion.
Yeah, we'll break it all down tomorrow on the program with the latest happening on CFL free agency and look ahead to the Four Nations tournament. All right, a couple things to mention. Tomorrow, we're going to get to the Coolbet lines in a minute. Tomorrow is the February poker tourney. So everyone that's played with us before over on Coolbet would love to see you again tomorrow. You can go to Coolbet Poker, download the poker software, and jump in Lock Shop Poker Series tomorrow night. It is open. You can pre-register right now and save your spot. That'll get underway at 8 p.m. tomorrow night. And if you've got any questions about it, fire us a DM. But hopefully we will see everyone that was been in before. And if you haven't already, just get over to Coolbet, click on poker, download the poker software, and click into tournaments.
So no bounty on me this time? None on Gazzola? They took all those off?
Maybe not. They've just put down, maybe those will be added later on. But yes, right now there's also an additional $100 bounty on my head and Dusty's head which always makes it tough because everyone's taking a run at me. But anyways, tomorrow, 8 p.m., hopefully we will see you there. If you joined us a little late, a couple things we mentioned off the top, and you can see in chat right now, tickets to the Whiskey Festival event that we're doing on February 27th went on sale today. We've got less than 30 tickets remaining already for this. This is going to be a really cool one. At Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame, we'll have the game on the big screen. And this one is going to be learning and enjoying bourbons, Maker's Mark Master class. And there's going to be some really cool stuff, including trying a couple of private select barrels that they'll be coming in along with Maker's Mark, Maker's 46, Maker's Mark Cask Strength. And that Remis was not joking about that charcuterie board that we had along with all of the whiskeys last year. Absolutely phenomenal. So for those of you that are into whiskey, our Whiskey Fest event selling now. Tickets in the description of this video. There's a link right there. And while we're mentioning links, I'm also going to throw this into the chat right now. That is the link for the Fund a Need auction for the Health Sciences Center Foundation. We're doing a big push this month. So important for our healthcare system and, the crown jewel, I would say, of the city's services at HSC. They're looking to raise funds to help more machinery get into the emergency ward, to help all the stress on that spot right now. And part of it, they've got an amazing, amazing auction. So if you click on that, there's also a link in the description, some Jets experiences, some trips, including one to Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge for 3 days this summer, 3 days of fishing, 3 nights at beautiful Aikens Lake, and your host will be me. So if you want to talk some hockey and football and slay some walleye and have some incredible food and just an amazing couple days or 3 days, get over there. Would love to have one of our Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners win this. The value of the package, the trip is about $7,600. So you might be able to get a good deal on that, but get in on it. That auction is live until 10 p.m. on February 22nd. So all for a great cause of the Health Sciences Foundation. You can also make a donation if you go there. Maybe you're not looking to bid on the fishing trip, but you'd like to give $25 or $50 to help us raise our goal. It is all there. Link in the description. HSC Foundation. And good luck to everybody bidding on that. Would love to hang out with you at one of my favorite places on earth, Aikens Lake Lodge. All right, let's get over to Coolbet. What are we going to be watching, Remis, right now? Like, this day is always one of those ones where you just, okay, it's even worse after your team gets massacred in the Super Bowl. But the fact that we're not only out of the Super Bowl, but on the NHL break and got to wait a couple days for something that I am very fired up with, the Four Nations tournament. I guess it's going to be WWE, maybe a late basketball game or something like that. Slim pickings. We don't even have TGL tonight. I was hoping for some video golf.
Yeah, I guess WWE Raw would be on, but for me, it's the SNL 50th anniversary on Sunday, and they've put out a number of documentaries. Music one, they put out a series, including an incredible documentary on the cowbell sketch. So I've been catching up on those as I get ready for the 50th celebration. Maybe you want to do that here when there's no hockey on. It is Wednesday. What is that? That is the first game of the Four Nations, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, so 6 Central. I got to get the schedule. I got to get the schedule up on my phone because, one game a day is pretty easy to keep track of.
Yeah, if you're worried about Canada, it's Wednesday, it's Saturday. Those are 2 night games in Montreal. And then the series shifts to Boston. Now, a week today is Family Day. Perfect day for a matinee. Canada, Finland in the afternoon. USA, Sweden at night. I will actually, myself and Dustin Nielsen from the Lock Shop are going to be in Boston. And then we'll fire it up with shows for the Lock Shop and Winnipeg Sports Talk from Boston next week, in between those final games of the round robin and the championship game on Thursday night between the top two teams in the round robin. There you go. Canada, Sweden Wednesday, USA, Finland on Thursday, and then doubleheader, afternoon game of Saturday, Finns and Swedes, night game, Canada, USA, and then, as we mentioned, Canada, Finland, Sweden, USA on the Monday, and then the top two teams remaining will play for the championship Thursday night from Boston, and then we'll wrap the tournament from Beantown on the 21st. And then what's crazy, Remo, that's a Friday. The very next day, Saturday, September 22nd, we are right back at it with the Jets in St. Louis.
Yeah, sorry, I made a mistake. The games are at 7 Central, not 7 Eastern, 8 Eastern, and the championship is Thursday. Thursday has February 20, so... yeah, I'm looking forward to this tournament. Wednesday night at 7. Sportsnet has the games, and we have Canada against Sweden, but the main event of at least the round robin, Canada-US, on Saturday at 7 p.m. in Montreal. Good scheduling there. I'll give them credit for that one. So Sportsnet, all the games. I'm looking forward to seeing the coverage. Seems like a lot of media are there to cover this. I mean, again, first, best on best. I think it's starting to feel like a big deal. We did get a look at Kyle Connor, Josh Morrissey, and Connor Hellebuck in their country practice gear.
Yeah, well, and the jerseys are so nice. As I mentioned, I went to Royal on the weekend and picked up my Canada Morrissey jersey. Got a USA Hellebuck as well. Hopefully that will only be brought out for the Sweden-USA game, and Canada will be in the final, and I'll be able to wear the red 44 for the game for all the marbles. Getting over to Coolbet, right now there's a bunch of hoops games tonight. Luka Doncic, this might be his first game for the Lakers. Utah at LA. Lakers are 11.5-point favorites, but if you think Doncic is going to make a big impression, plus 135 on Luka to get 30 points, and plus 225 on Luka to have over 9.5 assists. But the Four Nations face-off is what I want to take a look at. Now, we'll get into more of the props tomorrow on the Lock Shop and in the show, but pretty much everyone's got, a goal total on them or point totals. But as far as the tournament goes, Canada, and this is dropped actually. This was plus 160 earlier, plus 150 right now for Canada. I will say this, there's probably some value on USA. I think the USA was the favorite earlier, but I think there's just a lot of steam of patriotic Canadians backing their club right now, Reem. But I mean, I would just be happy as long as these top two teams meet in the final. That's what we want. No offense to the Swedes, who are plus 425, or Finland, who's had to handle some big injuries, including Miro Heiskanen, the longest shot on the board at plus 750.
Yeah, Finland always surprises. I wouldn't count them out, but they've had a number of injuries, as you said. Canada, US, that's pretty close. The big favorites. I'm curious how Sweden is going to do, but I think USA would probably be the favorite for me. But look at this Canada roster. You see these lines, Hess?
Let's pull them up.
This is talk about fantasy hockey. This is fantasy hockey. These lines: Reinhart, McDavid, Marner, Stone, Crosby, McKinnon, Jarvis, Point, Marchand, Hagel, Cirelli, Bennett, Taves, Makar, Theodore, Doughty, Morrissey, Parayko. I believe Sanheim and Konechny are the extras there, and Hill, Bennington, the goalies. It's too bad they couldn't take the actual best goalie, Logan Thompson. He was my pick. We could bet on Coolbet who the starter would be, so I bet, Logan Thompson, he's the best goalie. Seems simple enough, right?
How's he not on the team?
Apparently not when it comes to Hockey Canada. I guess that they wanted Aiden Hill, and Logan Thompson didn't get along, or Peter DeBoer didn't have a good experience with Logan Thompson in Vegas. There's so much BS that goes into these picks rather than just picking the best players. And I think that's kind of how Mark Scheifele did on the team. You have John Cooper, the coach. Well, he wants his guys, Cirelli and Hagel. Then you have someone else, who's manager of this team. Oh, he wants his guy on, and maybe there's no one from the Jets on the management to advocate, hey, we should get Mark Scheifele on this team, and everyone's wants to pump their own guys up. Again, I don't know how it actually works, but I think we saw with the juniors that it's not just, hey, let's just take the best players and put them on the team.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, the top line, though, McDavid with Marner and Reinhart, I think is really interesting. I mean, Mark Stone playing with Crosby and McKinnon.
Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, we'll see about those third line. I mean, Seth Jarvis and Marchand with Braden Point, and then that Cirelli, Hagel, Bennett line, which should be more of a checking line. I mean, we've certainly got the players. Can the goaltending hang with the other top teams? And obviously, Josh Morrissey, everyone's going to be pulling for him, playing with Colton Parayko and apparently on the number 2 PP unit, while Kyle Connor skating on line 1 for the U.S., along with Jack Eichel and Matthew Tkachuk. And we all expect to see 37 Connor Hellebuck in the net for the Stars and Stripes in their first game coming up on Thursday. We'll go over the props tomorrow for the Four Nations on the Lock Shop and on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But you can head over to Coolbet right now and dive into everything that is out there right now. Oh, and one other thing we should do, considering it is the first day of the offseason, NFL futures are out. Super Bowl odds for next season have the Eagles and the Chiefs as co-favorites at plus 650. The Bills at 7-1, Ravens at plus 750, Lions at 8-1. Then a big gap, Washington 15-1, Niners 16, Packers and Bengals 20-1, Chargers 25-1. The Rams at 25-1, Denver, Tampa, and Houston all 30. I have to admit, I'm kind of intrigued at this 35-1 on Minnesota, Remis. We don't know what's going to happen at the quarterback position other than J.J. McCarthy at some point will likely be playing. And I guess we'll probably have odds on what happens to Aaron Rodgers. Could Aaron Rodgers possibly follow the full Brett Favre and go Packers, Jets, Vikings at the end of his career?
That would be interesting. Is there odds on Aaron Rodgers? You know what? I don't even care to look.
There will be soon.
The only thing I don't really care. I don't need to hear his name anymore, Huss. But Minnesota, yeah, interesting. Seems like whoever they put in at quarterback has success. They brought in Sam Darnold. A lot of callbacks this year to Case Keenum. Remember when Case Keenum came out of nowhere and led them to the playoff spot in the Minnesota Miracle? So, yeah, intriguing at this time of year. Who's gonna be in the Super Bowl? I know a lot of people draft heavy, looking at the draft. I don't know. It's the day after. I'm not there yet, Huss. I might need some time to recoup. Maybe get ready for the baseball pitchers and catchers. I imagine I'm reporting soon. The season's a little over, probably like 6 weeks away or something. I know they're kicking off overseas, so it is that strange time of year where we're in between, where it's only hockey. Now it's not even going on right now, and basketball as well. I think Luka Doncic, he's making his debut with the Lakers pretty soon, isn't he? And AD's injured.
Yeah, I just gave the odds out for it. Plus 135 on 30 points and plus 225 on 10 assists tonight. Did you catch UFC on the weekend, by the way?
I did actually catch UFC. I watched that Sean Strickland fight. He had the broken nose, blood everywhere.
He got busted up big time by Duplessis.
Yeah, it did not go well for him. I had the other fights on. I wasn't paying that close attention. I forgot what I was doing. I think I was throwing out our newsletter. Subscribe to that. I'll put a link in the chat. Did have some good information there.
I popped by the casino actually on Saturday night. And they do a good job of putting the fights on, so I was able to watch the two kind of co-mains. That women's fight with Zhang, I believe, the Chinese champion. She lost the first round and then just dominated her opponent, who was the favorite in that one. And it was nice for me because I used my the bet and get promo over at Coolbet, $25 bet, and win or lose in the UFC, you get a $25 free bet after the weekend. So I actually won that one. I'm sure I put into some Chiefs prop that didn't cash yesterday after it, but anyways, we'll focus on the good stuff, the wins. And we do have of course, the poker tourney tomorrow. Maybe I'll brush up on my poker skills tonight and get ready for the tourney tomorrow.
Man, I had to do that because these bounties, I had to be like, okay, I need to redo my strategy here because it wasn't going well for me. I had a pretty decent finish. We didn't make the money, but I had finished second in the first one, and I don't know, the magic went out. So I gotta do some revisiting.
Hey, I'll tell you, after playing in that tourney in Costa Rica, lasting for like 7.5 hours, you realize that you have to be, especially these bigger tournaments, you have to be really patient. You got to get a few cards too when it comes down to it. And there will only be one champion. We'll see who it'll be tomorrow. 8 o'clock, we're starting it. Coolbet.com. Click on poker, download the poker app, and then just go into tournaments. You'll see the lock shop. You can actually just search, put in lock. It'll take you right to there. Tomorrow, 8 o'clock Central Time. The cards will be dealt. Hope to see you there. Don't forget, auction open right now for the Health Sciences Center Foundation. And looking forward to hopefully having one of you and a guest join me out at Aikens Lake this summer. So get those bids in. That's live until the 22nd of February. And tomorrow, I don't know, either tomorrow or Wednesday, I'll have to wear the Morrissey jersey on the show, Remo, as we get ready for Josh representing Canada in the Four Nations.
Yeah, that looked really good. Someone was asking me in chat what I thought of Canada's jerseys this year. I think they're fine. I don't think they're like my favorite ones, but I don't think they're
really nice. And you got to see them up close. Like all the jerseys, the USA too. There's some really neat, like little things, little tweaks. If you look closely, some of the printing and some of the thing on it, very, very clever. I don't normally applaud Fanatics, but I think they knock these jerseys out of the park. The Sweden and the Finland ones are really cool too, for that matter.
Yeah, I think they're all pretty good. So, what was the worst? I said the worst one. Well, I wasn't a fan of 2006 Olympics, Canada, but the 2018 was like easily the worst, like jerseys. Not just Canada jerseys, like any jersey ever, all of them. Canada, USA, they were not good. So I thought these look good. I like how the colors, they only wear one jersey. So you do have the red and the blue contrasting. They have to contrast with Finland. They're white and Sweden is yellow. So I kind of like how they've done that. You only got to buy one. And I think Canada's look good. It's the numbers. It's called what, like maple, I think is the name of the
brown.
It's not like, it's like maple brown. That's what they want to take corporate because it's Canada and we're known for maple syrup. So I don't know. The one thing about jerseys now, like whenever they come out with like insight on how they designed a jersey, has to come up with some like BS like reasoning. We did this. It symbolizes this and this. Just make a nice jersey. I don't care what it symbolizes. And you see these.
There's a lot of thought that goes into this.
Maybe they make them and like we've like, okay, we've got to come up with some like marketing speak explanation. Like just make a good looking jersey. It doesn't need to have maple color for Canada. Like just.
If it does, though, listen, whatever it is, it turned out great. I'm the proud owner of one. I will wear it on the show later on this week. I'll have it in Boston next week to cheer on Canada and Josh Morrissey. All right. Well, as I said, the good thing is, as tough as it was to do the show today and to take it on the chin and have to pay T-Cone Pauly $50 and everything else that came with getting smashed in the Super Bowl, I can guarantee you that unlike the last time this happened, we will have a show tomorrow afternoon. We'll be all over CFL Free Agency. Jeff Hamilton's going to jump on with me. We'll also get ready for the Four Nations tournament with the latest on Canada and the rest of the team's practices before the team drops the puck on their first game Wednesday night against Sweden. Polish up on your poker skills tonight, folks. Join us tomorrow for that. Otherwise, thank you. Most of you are very nice to me in chat today. And you can't win them all. As I say, I'm focusing all my positivity on the Jets' run to the playoffs and for these next couple weeks, Four Nations tournament, which we can't wait for. Thanks to Lapo for jumping on today. Brandon Rewucki, congrats again to Brandon and all you Eagles fans. And Mike McIntyre as well. Huge thanks to all the sponsors that make the show happen. Special welcome aboard to the great people down at the St. Vital Dental Center at 167 St. Anne's. That'll do it for us today, folks. Have a great night. Figure out what you're going to do now that there's no hockey and no football for the foreseeable future other than the Four Nations. And whatever you do, join us tomorrow, 1 p.m., live on YouTube, and later on the afternoon on your podcast feed right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a good one, everyone.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.